While the struggle in Europe and the Middle East was still raging, Australia suddenly found she had another enemy. This one right at her doorstep. In the early days, the men who flew out into the brave but hopelessly unequal struggle knew they were going to almost certain death. For their outmoded planes, the best that could be mustered, were no match for the fast and maneuverable Japanese fighters. And for the first time, the crews flew with a new fear. Fear of capture. Catalinas operating out of cairns flew on long-range reconnaissance missions. For the Japanese, by then firmly established in New Guinea, began to carry their invasion into Papua. American forces, withdrawn from the defeat of the Philippines, were gathered in Australia, and a combined combat force was formed. From the information gathered, strike operations were planned, and Allied squadrons flew out to attack when the enemy was within range. As the Allied forces began to drive the Japanese back, landing parties of RAAF engineers moved in to construct airstrips. In areas recently held by the enemy, certain dangers still remained. A watch had to be kept for a surprise attack, and mines cunningly planted in the roads up from the beaches had to be detected and deloused. Almost everyone was getting fed up. And more the talk turned to home and what they would do when it was all over. Some couldn't get used to the idea of having a future again. The end of the war was near. The enemy was in retreat. And the Australians were assigned to cleaning up operations, ferreting out handfuls of Japanese left isolated in dozens of small islands. It was an unpopular job, and to many it seemed a worthless waste of effort and lives. end of each operation brought with it a feeling of almost unbearable relief. To those who had been in it from the beginning, death had become a commonplace. They were taut, brittle shells of men, as damaged inside as their planes were on the surface. The lessons of war would be hard to unlearn. Experience had taught them not to hope or plan. That brought bad luck. Not to love or even bestow friendship. That brought heartbreak. And above all, never to relax and let fate catch them happy, for that could bring sudden death.